probably the exact reason that you're doing what you're doing, and we're talking about this. Go for a hike out in the Smokies. You get out there early to try to beat some of the traffic. Get
Yep.
in, good 6, 7, 8 mile hike. And I'm coming back and I'm hungry and I'm thirsty, and so Peaceful Side is a perfect location for that. Right as you get out of the national park. I know you talk about Morgan County. And
Yeah.
also Lily Pad.
Yeah.
Those are so high on my list. I've been wanting.
Hey, gang, it's Jeremy from Price Points, and welcome to the podcast. Price Points is dedicated to finding ways to have fun while staying active. And in this episode, we've got Keith from whatsbrewingnext joining us to talk about hiking and beer. Our interview was inspired by Price Point's recent limited series, Trails and Ales. This 5-part series touched on locations in East Tennessee where you could take a great hike followed up with a great craft beer. These locations reach all the way down south to Dayton and works its way up north, up into the Tri-Cities. To take a look at this full list, go to pricepoints.com. That's price-points.com to check out the entire list and get the lowdown. So now, on to our great interview with Keith. So I want to thank you, Keith, for coming on to talk here. Really excited to have you. Of course, most people that know you and are watching or listening to this, know that you're What's Brewing Next. I think we connected on Instagram a few years ago, and right before I had to do something really quick, and I don't know if you've seen this or not on my Instagram, but I'm actually a Packers fan. So I had a Packers shirt on. I made sure to get it off because I know you're a diehard Lions, and that's the last thing I wanted to do was tick you off, right at the beginning. But just kind of let everybody know who you are, and a little bit about what's brewing next, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jeremy. And it would have been okay. You definitely could have wore the Packers gear, but I would have given you a hard time. It's been okay. I've been fine with that. So for me, my name's Keith Marshall, the owner, I guess, co-founder of What's Brewing Next. I'll get into why it's a co-foundership here in a little bit. So I'm originally from Michigan. That's why I am a Lions fan. Otherwise, probably wouldn't be. I lived there for the first 24 years of my life. Went to school there, went to college there. Started in working in sports. That's my full-time job. I work here at the University of Tennessee. Even started that in Michigan. I worked for a minor league baseball team called the Lansing Lugnuts, which is where I even met my wife. Was at that with that team. Wasn't doing a whole lot there, but between that and my time at Central Michigan, I was an intern there as well. It got me to the University of Houston, and I was there then for the next, I think it was 7 years, 6 years full-time, 1 year internship. We enjoyed our time there, but with all of our family, like we are the only family of, both sides that are not in Michigan, in that general, 2-hour radius or so. So we ended up moving back, at least to Tennessee. At least we can drive now. It's not that whole hop on a plane is the only way to see anybody situation anymore. And I like road trips, so that's okay. We love Tennessee here as well. So as far as what's brewing next, I really was not into craft beer. When I was in Houston, we'd go to the Flying Saucers. I don't know if you've ever been to one, but
I have,
tons of
yes,
options.
yeah,
Tons of
yes,
options.
yeah.
And would go to it in Houston and grab my probably Bud Lights or Coors Light, maybe some Lone Star, whatever domestic we were feeling that night. Never really tried anything new. I think I did have a fat tire, once or twice with my buddy. Just like, I'll get a bucket, so yeah, I'll drink that. That's fine. But I didn't really get into it until I was here in Tennessee. And 1 year I was traveling with the Lady Vols for the postseason, and we were in Louisville, and lots of great places to go there. Great place for craft beer, and we were out that night watching. We went out to watch the Tennessee Michigan men's game, and everybody's ordering all these fancy drinks or getting some kind of beer that wasn't Bud Lights. And all I did was, said, what would you like? What she's having, and no idea what's about to come my way. It was when I asked, it was a Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale, and it's a pretty strong way. I mean, that'd be the darker beer, barrel age, not the way you would expect to go. Damn, this is good. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I had a burger that it paired really well with that night. Like, okay, I should probably try some different things. And so I got really big into Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale. Family would come down or friends would come. That's what I was buying for some people, but still, that was about it. Still drinking a lot of Bud Light and Coors Light. And that next summer, with our families in Michigan, the kids would go up now and then without us. And I think they'd stayed up there after a trip up, and I was a little early, and we were meeting at a Meijer store. I'm not gonna sit in the car. It's middle of the summer. It's blazing hot, so I walk inside, and being from Michigan, I don't know how I had not heard about Oberon, or I'd heard about it, but never had one. And they had some in stock, and I'll just grab something. I've got a few minutes, so I'll just take this, grab it, take it home with me. And that was the end of domestics for me for the most part. I still drink them here and there, but brought that Oberon back. I loved it. Grabbed some more from the Casual Pint in Maryville. And my wife kept having me keep some Bud Light or something on, in the fridge. She's like, well, yeah, you're good, with your craft beer, but can I have something regular? Well, she ended up, I think it was an Oberon as well, and drank that. She was done, like both of us at that point. She's into different things than I am, but that was kind of how What's Brewing That's and me and the craft beer scene itself began. As far as the page and the personality now. So we had a lot going on here at work. We were changing ticket systems at the time, and it was pretty stressful and did have a lot of free time. And my wife said, you need an outlet, you need a hobby, just something. And she'd send me out some of the rougher days and say, just grab a beer, go sit on the porch, enjoy it. And so I started doing that, and it really became a good way for me to settle down, relax, and be able to enjoy the rest of the night. And it was May of 2019, Memorial Day weekend. We got out of work a little early. It was like 2 p.m. that day. We had two choices: go pick up the kids, or we can just meet up at Casual Pine or something, grab a beer. So obviously, we met up for the beer. The kids were still there. They were good till 6. So we had some time. And she'd been pressing me for a while. Like, you do need a hobby, something like an outlet of sorts. And you've been getting all these different kind of craft beers. Let's do a page. So, this sounds kind of fun. And I'll be open to that. And we just started throwing around some names, and What's Brewing Next just hit, because I didn't want to be just about the beer too. One of my favorite parts about breweries is the events, whether it's trivia, a fundraiser, all of that. I absolutely love. So I want to be able to promote that as well. And that's kind of why within my logo, you have the beer and the calendar. We just randomly picked a name that day. She took a picture of me having an Oberon at Casual Pint, and from there just kind of learned and lived as I went. But that's how we get started.
No, that's awesome, man. And when it comes to a lot to unpack, and so it's funny you mentioned, domestic, particularly light beers, and it was kind of Casual Pint was a gateway to craft brewing. It's same deal. Good friend of mine. He's a guy I run with. He doesn't run that much anymore, but I'm trying to get him back out there. And there were 3 of us. We all worked together. And for those that know Knoxville, it's the Bearden area, and so Casual Pint, there was a location there near our office and near where we ran, and so we would run and we would go there. And my buddy Lance, to this day, gives my friend Jonathan and I grief. He's just like, you guys have caused me to pay more in beer. I used to love. I think his was Coors Light. I might be wrong about that. And if I am, I'll definitely hear about it from him. But it's like, man, now I can't drink that anymore. And so it's funny that you mentioned that casual pint did that. Now we are talking about beer, and one thing I will do, I want to use it as an excuse to crack open one. And so it's the weather here has been pretty warm, and so I'm going to justify talking about beer and the fact that it's actually warm. So I'm going to crack open one that is actually from one of the breweries that's mentioned in the Trails and Ales, and that's up in Kingsport, and it's a Bays Mountain Brewery. So so cheers to them.
Yeah.
But
What style is it? What?
this is a, let's see if I can get it in the camera here. Oh no, I cracked open the wrong one. This is actually, fortunately I've got two of these, one for you and one for me, and I planned on us drinking both of these together. But this is their they call it a fest beer, and it's a collaboration actually with a fairly new brewery that's also in Kingsport. And
Okay.
so and it's funny, people who may not know a lot about, and it's a good beer. It's trying to see if it has any more details, and it really doesn't. So I'm doing a terrible job here promoting. But one thing I think you've probably noticed, I've noticed too, and is that there's a lot of collaboration. You would think that people would consider them competitors, but it's a very open. And I don't think that's just in where we live in East Tennessee. I went to Iceland a few years ago, and Iceland's one of that trip, along with a couple other things, is kind of what gave me the idea to do this series of Trails and Ales. Is that I'm talking to talking to a brewer outside of Reykjavik, and she's the brewer. Her husband makes pizzas, and it's this really cool, unassuming restaurant slash brewery. And she's like, "Oh yeah, beer's a big deal here in Iceland. We just opened our 10th brewery." And I was like, "Oh man!" And I had told her, that I was from Knoxville, and she's like, "Oh, that's near Asheville." And I was like, "Yeah, you can say that." And I gave her an example. I was like, "Look, we've got 14 at this point, and we've got, to my knowledge, and I'm not even really in the scene, had 5 more on the way at that point." And so
Yeah.
her eyes just got huge. And I was like, "Yeah, we're kind of a hub, for this." And so, we're a hub for the mountains, hub for breweries. So to me, it just kind of made sense. And I know when we talked about, and I asked you to come on, you'd mentioned, I think, something to the effect of, yeah, a lot of people like to earn their beer. And you even kind of recommended one to me a year and a half ago. I was taking some friends to the airport. They were flying to Minnesota, and I was like, "All right, I'll drop them off. I'll run a few miles in the Greenway." And so right when I got to the Greenway to get ready to run, I got an alert that there was this huge major accident on the interstate, going back to my house. I was like, "Shoot, what am I going to do?" And so I had, I'd had Instagram open. I was about to close it. You'd posted a story, and I thought, "Shoot, I'm just going to reach out to him." It's like, "Man, I know this is your neck of the woods." And you mentioned a great brewery to me that a few days later, when I picked the Davids up, my two buddies who were flying back, we went back there, and they had bingo night. And I was like, "You guys are going to love this. You all were in the Midwest. This has definitely got a Midwest feel because it's bingo night." And they loved it. And so it's just a killer place. But I guess for me, and I cracked open this beer. Kind of what is what's your go-to beer?
So it changes. It depends on what the day is, what the mood is. I am a huge IPA guy. I really am. One of the things that I've learned here recently uh, is they get a little heavy on me. So I've become more of a lager pilsner type person here recently. Just for something that's a little more chill. The ABV is usually a little bit lower, so I could have a few more if I feel like it. But as far as my specific go-tos throughout the year, I would say I probably had a couple of different ones. I've got a seasonal is Oberon. Um, I think I irritate my wife every year when I put on our family calendar Oberon release day because I've got to go out and have that first draft, and then always have some in the fridge during the summer. It just it's kind of a real gateway beer, and so it's got a special spot in my heart. I do miss being in Michigan at times, so it's a good way to keep those roots going. But with it being a seasonal, just during the summer, though they did put out a new, it was a like Oberon, but like a little bit darker. I've not tried it yet, but they have, I think it's called Eclipse. That's now out in the fall, so maybe that'll become my new Oberon and Oberon variant year round. But right now it is Two Hearted. It's kind of my year round go to. It's usually reasonably priced, especially as we're paying more for craft beers constantly. Um, I do try to find those 12 packs or something that is a reasonable cost. I always have it in the fridge, and it's usually Two Hearted. Not always, but there's typically at least one or two in my fridge of those as a go-to. And I would say to be local and give a local shout out, I would say it's probably the next level. Their Big Boy Map. Back to my IPA. I always had a Bound beer. That always was drinking Bound beers there. I've had just one of those days. I will get a Big Boy Map. I'll absolutely love it. It's probably my favorite local beer. Every single week while I'm there.
Awesome. And my son Max and I, we just wrapped up a series where we were running on Wednesdays, and we would run near Next Level. And I think I saw you in there a few times hosting, hosting. And Big Boy's a good one. That is, and Next Level's a great, just very cool, low key, brewery. That's just got some great stuff. So speaking of breweries, one thing it's really neat. I was like, what three breweries would you recommend? And you kind of came back and you're like, man, I got to cheat on this. I got four. So what four, if someone, and the thing is, like here in East Tennessee, the one thing I've heard from people, a lot of feedback from Trails and Ales is like, man, this is great because I've got someone coming in town next week and I was trying to think where to take them. And these are some good options. And that's kind of what got me thinking, which ones would you recommend and kind of why?
Yeah. So the reason I needed the fourth one is I'm trying to stay local tonight. I really am. But Calf Killer is one that I'm amazed. The number of people I talk to about beer that come to my shows or I just see around that know me and what I'm about. I'll say, hey, have you been to Calf Killer yet? And most people say no. I've got some friends that go often, but a majority of the people say no, and it's such an amazing place.
Well, it's actually the first brewery in Tennessee.
That I did not know either.
Yeah. And it's neat. I love Calf Killer. And it was, I mentioned Iceland, but even, before Iceland, I had a whole week where just kind of my boss said, hey, you're 8 months ahead of schedule. You need to take some time off. And I said, okay. And I didn't have anything to do. I didn't have Max with me. He was staying with his mother. And so I went out and visited some people and did a couple of hikes. One of them actually is in the Trails and Ales, and that's out in Dayton, Tennessee, with Monkey Town and hiking Laurel Falls. A couple of days later, I actually went to Calf Killer, hiked, but because I was traveling through Chattanooga, I hiked somewhere far away from Calf Killer. So didn't put it on the list yet. I think in the future, it's definitely going to be on there, but even going to places like Depot Street up in Jonesboro, Tennessee. And I don't know if you're familiar with Depot or not. When I went in there, it kind of reminded me of Calf Killer, and I mentioned that to them. I said, it's kind of like Calf Killer. They got so excited. They're like, that's the first brewery, and I had heard that. I was like, yeah, it is. And they're like, when we were looking at places, we went there a few times, and then we were trying to capture that feel and that essence. So it is interesting when people hadn't heard of it or hadn't been there because it's off the beaten path.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I was worried about my ways working. I've only been there once, so
yeah,
it's not like I've been there a ton. But I had some people with me, and we're driving and seeing where we're like 0.1 miles away. I'm in a cemetery. Like there's a cemetery right here. We took some jagged turns, and then all of a sudden, boom, there it was.
You got like a church and then a blind curve, and it's right there, on the
Yeah,
other side of the
yeah.
curve. That's awesome. All right, so calf killer. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. We kind of
No, no,
went down
no, you're
a
good.
rabbit hole there. Yeah. So the other three that you would say definitely hit up.
Yeah. So I guess I go to my hometown. And I know we talked about them once already. Probably I think talk about them again later. But Tri Hop I think is a great place. Just to give a shout out to one of the breweries in Maryville where I live. Nick and his crew are awesome. The beers are it's nothing wild and crazy. They're just really good, solid beers. True to the style that they say they are. Um, Absolutely love going there, and it's a very family friendly venue to me. Me and my family will go. My youngest daughter, she's kind of a celebrity on my page at this point, but we like to go. She loves playing darts, and so we'll go there do that or take some games with us. Or the last time we were there was a really nice night, so we played some Jenga outside. They've always got some good food trucks. So it's really we need to get out, go somewhere cool, and relax. Tri Hop is that area. Um, Second, one of my favorite breweries and probably one of the first places I really hit here in Knoxville was Abridged. Um, Kind of the same style where they've got those rotating beers um, that I really enjoy. They're all very, very solid beers, nothing wild, but I'm there more for the taste and enjoyment. And really, when we go to Bridge, I don't know about you, but I'm going for their food.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I have yet to find anything on that menu I don't like, but most of that's because it's usually the three items I love rotating each time. So I absolutely love a Bridge, especially if you're hungry and you want some good food and beer. That's the place to go. Um, and then I think for just the people, if you're out of town or if you haven't done it and you're trying to learn the scene, the place I recommend is Knott's Brew Hub. And I know it's not a brewery, but I think it's a good way to learn all about all of the Knoxville beer. I think they have 21 taps, and all of them are local. I think they've got their hub lager as well on tap. But it's a good way if you only have a limited amount of time, you can go there and try a couple of different breweries, most likely either new releases or staple beers. Get a good feel of what it's about. Um, and then the other item that it's not just the hub, the tours. If you're from out of town and you want to check out a few places, plus you don't want to really worry about driving, you can take one of their tours. I've done that before, even after I've been to all the different breweries. And it was just awesome to go on that tour. And Ace was our host for that, the one we took. It was really cool just learning about the venues, about their brewing process and what their goals are while you're enjoying, some of their beer, which is already included in your cost, which is awesome.
Yeah, I've never actually done the brew tour, and it's something it's been on my list. But I love their location. And even if I've got time to kill, if I'm in between like a meeting and dinner, and if I'm alone or if I'm definitely with somebody, I love going in there and getting a flight because, like you said, they've got so many different beers. They're all local. And so you can get a flight of something you love and you want to share it with somebody, or on the flip side, something new, and you got someone to try it out with. And the staff there is just they're killer. They're so friendly and on top of it. Abridged is one of the reasons why I have to run. So that's their burgers, their wings, and I remember they used to have they used to do their wings one way, and then with COVID, and supply chains and stuff like that, they had to go to a more traditional wing, and I got a little concerned, and it was just as good. So, not the best wing in town, but definitely a very close second. And their burgers, best burgers. I can't think of another place. And I mean, there's some close seconds, but Abridged and the cool thing about them, again, talking about collaboration, they've got their burger truck at Zool. And so you can go to Zool and get one of their beers, and then you can still enjoy a burger from Abridged. Well, man, I know that I'd sent you kind of like the 5 stops of the tour, and
Yeah.
I know you hadn't hit all of them up, but I guess out of the ones that you have hit up, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about those 5?
Yeah. So I'm pulling it up here now because I
Okay.
realized I prepared and didn't bring those over. Um, so I will say I have only really hit as I started looking back at it more
Hmm.
after I filled it out. Really, have only hit Peaceful Side, but probably the exact reason that you're doing what you're doing, and we're talking
Hmm.
about this. Go for a hike out in the Smokies. You get out there early to try to beat some of the traffic. Get
Yep.
in, good 6, 7, 8 mile hike. And I'm coming back, and I'm hungry and I'm thirsty, and so Peaceful Side is a perfect location for that. Right as you get out of the national park. Um, I know you talk about Morgan County
Yeah.
and also Lily Pad.
Yeah.
Those are so high on my list. I've been wanting to get out there all the time, and I forget until it's too hot. Like I never seem to. We get busy. That time of
Yeah.
year when the weather is perfect is usually our busy time of year with a lot of crossover in sports,
Hmm.
or I just need a weekend to do nothing. And so I really want to get out there because I love Lily Pad beers, love the Morgan County beers that I've tried. Barrel House and the Brew Hub both have a lot of their beers on tap for me to
Yeah.
try. So
Yeah.
I've had that, and I heard all about the hiking and everything out there. That's what I want to do. I want to get out and enjoy the wilderness. Have not done that one yet. Um, and I've been to the Monkey Town in Loudon. Have
Right.
not, and that's one I think I was thinking
How
of.
How is now? I haven't. I've been to the one in Dayton. They've had the one in Chattanooga for a hot minute, and actually, one of my closest friends actually lives near there, and I've yet to really. And his name's also Jeremy. Jeremy and I haven't really been able to break away, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my friends Lee and Lewis as well. So I haven't been to that one. How's the one in Loudon?
We really liked it. So it was funny. It was the day after a beer festival in Chattanooga, and we went. So I've been to 2 beer festivals. I was invited to down there. They asked me to help promote and brought me down there. And so the first one was me and my wife, and we hit a good number of breweries that day after we were done. And then the last time was with me and a friend, and we hit all but Monkey Town. We hit every other brewery there in town that I had not hit that first trip. But I had to pick and choose and go, well, Monkey Town, that's not a far drive from our house. So the very next day, I heard all I heard about the day prior was their nachos. I'm like, it's lunchtime. I'm hungry. I gotta go check out these nachos. And so me and my youngest went, and oh my gosh, they were as good as advertised. The venue is amazing. There's
Yeah.
train tracks right behind the venue, and trains were going through. They had a train car out front that really was a welcoming sight. It was really cool just to pull up and see this train car sitting there. Um, the beers were fantastic. I'm pretty sure I had 2 flights that day, and every one of them I really enjoyed. There was nothing. Tried probably 5 different styles, and
Nice.
really liked all of them. It went well with those nachos, and I recommend going check it out at some point with it being not too bad of a drive.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, and it's one of those that's on my list, and that place, and you mentioned this, another thing about breweries, if someone who's never been to a tap room or a brewery, if they're picturing something like Cheers, and maybe I'm dating myself even referencing a show like Cheers,
I know it.
where it's just, hey, it's just a bunch of guys and things of that nature. It's not the case. I mean, most peaceful side's a great example of it. Is that it's very family friendly. And
Yeah.
that's really the cool thing about it. And Lily Pad is its own experience. I mean, shoot, you can camp there. So it's definitely a different kind of vibe and different feel. So that said, you've got kind of your lineup of places you would add if you had H rails and L's and had five stops. So I'm going to let you rip and go into them because they're all awesome. Some of them I've been to, and some of them I've only heard of and wanted to try out.
Yeah. So I need to do more. Maybe you can be my accountability buddy here at some point, but I do need to get out more. So I will tell you, I was really that way. I was a big runner and then ended up having back surgery. And now I'm on the fourth one. So running is a little worrisome to me, but I do like to still get out and walk and do the trails and all that. So I'm trying to do more of that. But back to your actual question. So the places I could think of here, at least locally, there's more with. We got Asheville. You got the northern Georgia. There's some breweries down there. So we have a lot. Being by the mountains, we got a lot. Places you could go, but even locally, you've got Clinch River Brewing with the Norris State Park right there. They've got a bunch of, I think it was 15 trails that they had available there. And Clinch River is awesome. And I don't think, especially from Maryville, it's not close. I don't get there as much as I would like to. But if you're doing what you do and get out and about and find places to hike, it's a perfect reason to go up there. And you got multiple things to go for, which is great. Kind of back to our discussion earlier, and when you asked me for a place to go, when you were down there running, try Hop. Back to them. The greenway runs right up next to their steps to take you up to their tap room. So I mean, you could find a place more convenient. A lot of times people are doing trails and you got to go over a block or two or some. I mean, this is you step off a foot and you're in their little outdoor area there. So definitely is a good spot. Plenty of walking to do. Great scenery down there. I love walking the greenway, and Tri-Hop's right there. Half Killer. I feel bad. We seem to be talking about this, a lot of the same places here right now. But Calf Killer, and I haven't done this because, as I mentioned, I've only been there once. But I started seeing places on TikTok around Sparta. They seem to have a lot of good hiking options around there and different trails. But there was waterfalls. I want to say it was Burgess Falls or something like that.
Burgess and Virgin are both very close. And if you're driving like from us in East Tennessee, driving on your way back, you'd always go there first and then stop at Fall Creek Falls. But I mean, there's a lot of options there.
Yeah, there's an account that was doing like the top waterfalls or top hikes or something in Tennessee, and they were showing that around Sparta. I'm like, I gotta go visit Calf Killer here very soon. I love waterfalls. That's my favorite thing to hike too, is the falls, and it looks incredible. And you've got Calf Killer and Happy Trails right there as well. So even if you do hike for a little bit longer, and I know Calf Killer closes at 4, and if that's you're still hiking up until that point, Happy Trails was another great brewery right there in town that I visited and would recommend as well. So the new Crafty Bastard, Baker Creek, it was a great one. I've been out there a couple of times. Recently, just went out there on Saturday, and they had this huge biking event going on out there. It was incredible, just because of all the different biking trails and trails that it has in that area. I will admit I didn't really know much about the Baker Creek Preserve and that whole area. I'd only been there to walk up to Sono when they were too tacos when their parking lot was too full. So it's been cool for experience for me to learn, because I've been to Crafty now a couple of times and gotten to know and see a little bit more, just being in the area, about what all there is to do from being active standpoint for their venue. Then if you want to just do your own thing, and it does have to be a trail downtown with the old city, really all of that is walkable. Or if you want to be guided, back to the Knott's Brew Tours, they actually have a walking tour. Wow. And I've never done that. I'm taking the bus, letting them wheel me around all different places, but they do have a walking option, and I think that's really cool, because you can still learn, get in a good exercise, have some beer, all at the same time, which is very cool. And since you asked for 5, and I just gave you a non-brewery, I would say probably the last one. I have never been there, and I will admit this one I had to kind of Google and learn a little bit about myself, was the Sharps Ridge Trailhead in North Knox. Have you ever been up there?
I've hiked it. I've hiked it, and it's interesting because the actual tower there is the tallest structure in the state of Tennessee.
Okay. No.
And just recently heard that, and that's a big, I think, and I could be wrong because I don't mountain bike, but I think that's a big mountain bike trail as well. But the day I did it, I mean, there was no one out there. It was a beautiful fall day, and this was a number of years ago. But I love the options, like you said. There's so many breweries out there,
Yeah.
and I think everyone you mentioned, all right, well, on the list, I might be getting ahead of myself, but I've been to and highly recommend.
Yeah. Yeah. Right around there. I think there were, yeah, Fanatic, Hexagon,
Mhm.
Elston, Ebony and Ivory are all
Yeah.
really short distance from there. And it sounds amazing. Like I said, I just Googled kind of try to get some idea of where some trails were because it was pretty neat. It was kind of a learning experience for me when you asked that question. I'm like, man, I know a couple, got some good ideas, and then I had to really dig in for that fifth one, and I was like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That you've got there. And the other option, like you said, talking about North Knox. I mean, that I think out of North Knox, it just seems like it's kind of really embraced some of the breweries or that brewery scene. And Ebony and Ivory. Wait, did I say that right? Ebony and Ivory. Yeah, there we go. Hey, get that southern accent in check. It is one of the most recent ones that I've been to, and they're great. Like, I got to meet the owners. My friend Barry, who actually just celebrated his birthday at Alliance. He introduced me to the owners back in the summer, and they're just gosh, incredibly nice guy, and they got some really good beer there. A play on words here. I was telling bad dad jokes even before I was dad. So what's brewing next for What's Brewing Next?
So a lot of things moving everywhere. I do need to work more on probably planning. Sometimes it's just I'm gonna drink this or go to these breweries and I'll get them up, and then I just build up too much content, and here it is. But so maybe a plan. I need to make short term, come up with a plan to better lay out what I'm going to post each and every day. But in all seriousness, so for the short term, um, one of the things I'm working on is some mug club options. So I just worked with Crafty Baker Creek on uh, Real promoting their mug club here recently. I think they've got a great setup going with their mugs, and being able to use it at any of the locations, I think is really neat. But I started just digging in more, and I'm a member of the Balter Society, and I've got a high wire their membership. I think they did a Black Friday deal last year, maybe even the last 2 years. Uh, and so I'm a member of theirs, and I love them. The deals, you get the little extra ounce, 4 ounces of beer, whatever, and with Highwire get discounts. There are a lot more out there that I don't think people realize. And so I just started doing some research because it's that time of year. Um, hey, what do you want for Christmas? Well, why don't you give me this membership that I get this and this included with it, and something I can use year round instead of sitting around collecting dust or
Yeah.
getting a bad gift. So I want to start getting into that because it's that time of year that people are looking for holiday ideas. So I think that's something that would be good for me to do, good for the breweries, but hopefully I help some people out that are struggling for ideas for some loved ones or friends.
Right. Well, and you mentioned Crafty, and so I didn't know until Max and I were doing their Wednesday Crafty grenade runs that they even had that mug set up. And I did see on Instagram the where you've promoted that with Crafty, but it wasn't until after one of the runs. And I didn't even notice it was Max, one of the guys that does the Crafty grenade runs, came out with his mug, and Max was like, "Well, how do you get one of those?" And my first joke was, "Well, you got to be 21 or over." And so an 11-year-old did not find that funny, but it's and then finding out that they do that. And I think I saw with their new location, which I haven't been out to yet. I really want to check it out. when I was at Alliance on Sunday. Actually, I had a couple of people tell me about it, and I was listening to them like talking about how great the setup is there. But they're kind of doing some stuff to kind of let people know, get some traction, get some movement in there. But they've got a loyal base. You know, this being their I think their third location. I know
Yeah.
they've got one. It's funny, they've got one near my house. I go to the one furthest away from my house the most, just because of the events that they have there, and I tend to forget all about the one that they've got in West Knoxville. So no, I'll be on the lookout for that. That's because like you said, I don't think there are a lot of people that know that there are these clubs that you can join.
Yeah, and I'm hoping there will be some awareness, beyond just the gift giving, because with crafties is great. I mean, you pay that amount, $60, and
Mhm.
you get for the life of the mug. So there's something like that, because there's places I haven't been, right? I just can't pay that much for a year because I don't get there as much. But for something like that, where it's the lifetime of the mug or the Balter, um, I don't need to remember my glass every time, which is even better. I will go to Crafty probably 5 times this in the next year and not have
Yeah.
my mug on me because it's just some random idea. So those are ones that I really, really like. But you also get value from the yearly memberships. There's just so many options. And I think the places have tailored it for different types of people. And I hopefully it'll bring awareness to the different options there and costs.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I'm looking forward to that. Not just for myself on selfish reasons, but exactly what you're saying. Holidays coming up, and I've got some friends who would definitely prefer that, instead of some goofy gift that I would find somewhere else, and probably spend more money on the goofy gift than I would on a membership that they would love and appreciate.
Yeah. And not to keep beat on this one, but I think it's important too for the breweries because we're about
Yeah,
to hit as soon as you get through the holidays, you hit the dry January. And I know it's always a rougher month for them and the employees and everything. So getting out there now, buying the merch, the gifts, and giving some tips, helping everybody prepare for that would be awesome.
yeah. I mean, that's great, and that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. The dry January, and uh, that's definitely an excellent point. Keith, man, if someone's looking for you online on the socials or just in general, man, where can they find you?
Yeah. So I am on Facebook, Instagram, usually primarily Instagram is where it all starts. Uh, TikTok, I've been doing a little bit more over there. Threads, been trying to jump on that board as well. All with the handles, What's Brewing Next. You can find me. And really, if you go to Instagram, I've got a bit.ly link in there. Not bit.ly, Linktree link that'll take you where you can access all in one spot, just to make it easier on you. And then if you like to hang with me in person, as I mentioned earlier, do some trivia shows. I host twice a week, Wednesday nights at Next Level, Thursday nights at Barrel House. Play the free trivia and win prizes, or just come hang out. Just come hang with me, chat with me in between questions and have some drinks. I mean, that's cool too, because I love just talking to everybody and meeting the people that I haven't met behind the scenes and just getting to know them and having a beer.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Barrel House. I was at Gypsy at the Kingsport location actually over the weekend. Hiked Warriors Path State Park in Kingsport,
Okay.
and honestly, it's I want to say I think it was a 7-minute drive from the trailhead of where Ashley and I hiked to Gypsy, and that's their actual that's their headquarters, their first location. It's interesting because the one in Barrel House is amazing. I'm really happy that they put that out there. I even vaguely like mentioned it. It's funny, I mentioned it in my stories on Facebook and Instagram, and had someone who Gloria I hadn't spoken to in I don't know how long, who lives in Chattanooga, and she was going on and on about how much she loves Gypsy, and they don't even have a place there. They've got a new place in Oak Ridge. I think it just opened. Have you been there yet?
I have not, but you're
Okay.
right. It opened on Thursday. I don't know if you know Jason from Barrel House. He was one of the managers. He's out there running it. Good
Okay.
guy. But I mean, it's kind of a workout, mini golf, putt putt. I mean, you gotta
Yeah.
walk a little bit. You gotta bend over to get that ball out of that hole. And Now they're brewing their beer, the Atomic City Brewing. And I had my first one of those the other night, actually, at Barrel House. I gotta give this a try. I like the people here, and they've been telling me good things about it. And I had their hazy IPA, and it was good. So I'm looking forward to trying more of their beer as well.
Well, talking about a first, I mean, they were the first hard cider in Tennessee. I don't know if there's another one or not. And, when you go to the one in Kingsport, that they've got all their awards up on the walls. I mean, all the medals that they win regularly. I mean, it's a great cider. It's cool that they're kind of branching out now with brewing beer, because cider's kind of been their wheelhouse, or in this case, their barrel house. Yeah. And so I went in thinking I'm going to try one of their beers, but the reason Ashley and I went in there, it's because I saw that they have an apple butter cider. And so we tried that. And oh my gosh, it was good. And so I was like, instead of getting one of their beers, maybe we get a second one of those. And we went in to get a second one. And the bartender there, he was just like, the guy, running the place, he's just like, listen, you may want to try this half and half. 2 reasons. One, I just blew the keg. And he's like, 2, everyone's been asking to mix this with their pumpkin cider. And I was like, you guys just released this yesterday. He's like, yeah, ever since yesterday, someone tried it out and it just kind of,
That's awesome.
morphed into itself. And we liked it so much. I mean, we kind of stuck with that for the rest of the evening. So yeah, it's a great place. I'm really looking forward to going out to Oak Ridge and trying it out. I think they even got a beer named Oppenheimer, which is I thought was extremely clever. And I was like, wow, that's I got to check that out. Well, Keith, man, I appreciate the time you took to kind of go over to share your knowledge of the brewing scene. And as the next year's 2024 comes out, I've had so much positive feedback about Trails and Ales. I think it's something I want to continue, maybe do it a different way, so kind of enjoy it year round. And maybe we can meet up on one of the trails and grab some ales as well, and do like a follow up episode.
That'd be great. Just hopefully I can keep up with you, but I'd love to do that and catch beer afterwards as well.
Sounds good. Well, and speaking of which, I gotta hit up with I may hit one of the places up this week. Probably over at Next Level to drop off this beer for you, man. And it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed following you throughout the years on Instagram, and it's cool that we were kind of able to connect and do this episode, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate you inviting me, Jeremy. It's been a good time and a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. Well, cheers. Well, I should say cheers.
If I was in the office, I'd be right there with you. But I did have a can of Allen beer up here. I'm like, I got a few hours, but I could probably get this chilling right now and still join in.
All right, man. I appreciate it for this episode of Price Points. I want to thank Keith again for coming on this week and giving us some solid insight. If you're not following What's Brewing Next on social, all the information will be in the show notes. Check Keith out. I think you'll really dig what he's got out there. Speaking of following, give us a follow. You can find us anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast or on our YouTube channel. While you're at it, check out pricepoints.com. That's price-points.com. Take a look at our Trails and Ales tour. 2023 is wrapped up. We're going to have some more in 2024. And if you got an idea or a suggestion of what should be added to the Trails and Ales, throw us a line, let us know, and we'll check it out. Thanks for tuning in today, and we'll see you next week. Take care.